Hey, KU fans, welcome back to another episode of the KU Sports Hour here at KUsports.com. And my goodness, do we have a lot to talk about today. I'm not even going to do one of those stupid introductions where I talk about Shane and Benton being my favorite people or your favorite people. We're just going to get right to it.
Good. I'm glad.
I know you are. A lot of people are.
Of those things.
They're getting really stupid. After last week's podcast, when we shut everything down, I think I said to both of you, I've really got to stop doing that.
Yep.
Especially
here we are again, though.
Kind of. Yeah, I didn't really stop. This is like a passive-aggressive version of it.
Especially the week where we had to record the same podcast twice and it had a similar intro. So, yeah, I'm kind of tired of the intros by now.
Are you?
Yeah,
okay. Well,
I'll be honest.
Do you just want to talk about Snoop Doggy Dogg?
Oh, yes.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Shane, you're a young ass man. You are so young that I don't know. I really don't know what to say. If you have any appreciation for what's about to go down on Friday, I know you're not going to be there, so really it doesn't matter to you. But I know Benton does, and I know I do. And this is our youth, man. This is Snoop D-O-double-G coming to late night. I realize it doesn't hit with all the kids, but we've got a kid right here. Talk to us, kid. Does it hit with you?
Well, as we have discussed, I think at this time last year, I am not a music guy. And so,
oh, God.
Granted, Snoop Dogg is one of the few people I probably know.
That's worth something.
If there's a song on, I go, oh, hey, that's Snoop Dogg. You know?
Wow.
But yeah, I couldn't tell you like more than like one or two songs of his, probably off the top of my head. So no, I don't. And I think those songs probably came out in like 2004, 2005, and I was like 10 years old. So
yeah, and you missed like a whole decade before that. I mean, no, you know, and that's not your fault.
Yeah.
I'm not dogging you. No pun intended. But yeah, I mean, right. Like you would know a few, but right. I mean, so in general though, I mean, because this is still a college thing, right? So you're young kids younger than you have to care about this. Will they? I mean, I think they will, and here's why, and I want to hear your answer, though. I think they will just because when that dude walks into the building, it's going to be electric. He's going to bring energy. There's going to be a whole spectacle around, and I mean, I think they've heard of him, right? So if nothing else, it's kind of like, I mean, it is. It's not just kind of like it. It's like seeing a celebrity. You know, you're walking on the street and you see someone, right? So there you go. Speaking of that, I walked right by Usher one time in Times Square when I was in New York City covering the draft.
I don't believe you.
It was insane. Shortest dude I've ever seen.
But such a dancer.
He terrific with the legs. He had a motorcycle helmet, and he was just like scurrying up the road, and I think he must have been filming something or something.
Really?
It was crazy. But I was like, damn, that dude's short. It was crazy. So anyway, Shane, I want to know, will they care? I mean, do you think just the atmosphere, the energy, the electricity can be enough to make this really still be big, even though, hey, they may not know him or certainly weren't alive when he was first introduced to the world?
Yeah, I think so. And for sure, I mean, atmosphere-wise, I mean, that it can't be that much different. I guess I don't really know. It can't be that much different than what they've had the last couple years, right? But based off name
Blasphemy.
alone. I mean, I'm saying not that much different compared to maybe the
all right. Yeah, there's going to be lights. There's going to be music. There's going to be some
But yes, in terms of name, I think everybody recognizes the name. Even if I do, everybody has to recognize the name Snoop Dogg.
Valid point. This podcast has already served as a heck of a public service announcement. Like, you have done your service for the world. If I've heard of him,
yeah,
everybody's heard
That's
of him.
the
Shane
way the
Jackson,
world works.
2020.
So yeah, I think players, these prospective recruits will enjoy it, the atmosphere and just the name alone and getting to experience that.
Fair enough. Enough about the kid. Benton, what does this mean to you, honestly?
I mean, it's pretty amazing that he's going to be here.
There you go.
He's he's iconic as
For
far
sure.
as like rappers go. I mean, it's not like having Tupac hologram come perform, which I was really rooting for.
And they might have to next year.
Let's do it.
I don't know how you top this. I mean, if you do a Tupac and Biggie rap duel next year, holograms,
yeah,
East Coast, West Coast. I mean, it could get real in there in a hurry.
That'd be amazing.
But I really don't.
I'm gonna start petitioning for this.
There you go. I love it. I use the power of the press.
And the government. I'm gonna file a petition.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know how to do that?
Nope.
Okay. This is gonna be fun. but yeah, I mean, like, how do you top Snoop? Really?
Wow.
I mean, they have every year. Agreed. Tech Nine.
Yeah.
Lil Yachty. 2 Chainz. I mean, it keep and then Snoop. I mean, that's That's a heck of a progression.
And it's strange because, like, as you were discussing with our young friend Shane Jackson,
that's me.
I mean,
whippersnapper.
Like, I don't think people who are in college now care that much about Snoop.
Right, and they probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Other than the icon aspect of it.
Whereas, like, a couple years ago, like, Lil Yachty was pretty hot when he rolled through here.
And he killed it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd heard of him none. Like 2 weeks before, that was the first time I'd ever heard of him.
Right.
And
Shane just found out who Snoop Dogg is.
There you go.
That is true.
You know, but Lil Yachty was amazing. Like he really performed that night, and I can't say I've listened to anything since, but I'm a fan. I was you know, respecting what he's about and how he can do his thing. So if nothing else, you'll get that, right? I mean, there's a chance that Snoop could be terrible. I mean,
Really?
I mean, just in general, rap live is hard, right?
Yeah, but if you're Snoop, I feel like
You got to deliver. Yeah, I think that's probably right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be like a 2-hour ordeal.
No, that was 2 Chainz.
Yeah,
and even Coach Self afterwards was like, "Man, that went on, huh?" I mean, so
I think they probably learned from that, right?
No
so like
doubt.
this, they can be like, "All right, what are you going to do? 4 or 5?"
Well,
tracks,
and
that's
if they even get to ask him.
Yeah,
I mean, he's probably going to tell him, "I'll show up. I'll do 3 songs. I'll do a half-minute encore.
I'll do half of 3 songs,
and I'm out." Right? Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be like, "Can I please play some more?" But Snoop's a basketball fan. I mean, you know, I fully expect him to get into this. You know what it is, late night. I mean, I think he'll be fired up that KU is having him, and you know, it's not going to be the top 10 things he's ever done in his life, probably not even top 50, but it's going to be a big deal in that he loves basketball.
Yeah, it just hit me though how they could top this next year.
Do go on.
Okay, one word, Drake.
Whoa,
but that's not going to happen because it's Adidas. And Drake's a Nike guy.
Yeah,
and Drake's also a Kentucky guy.
never let it happen. For real, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
probably
like,
not.
They wouldn't.
Because how many times has he done their like Midnight Madness type of thing?
Yeah, right.
I don't know if he's done it more than once, but he's definitely done it.
So do you just stop after this year? Like, oh, it can't be topped.
I hope
more.
so. No more late nights.
Yeah. Oh, well, they'll keep late night going, I'm sure. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, or you just go way back. Like you take like 1,000 steps back and you start with like a 16-year-old from Free State who's like an up-and-coming rapper in the Lawrence scene. You maybe you do that, you know, and I don't know though. I mean, it may open the door for like, hey, you know, these guys, you know, that's the thing though. I mean, Snoop has ties with Adidas. That's why he's coming. I mean, it wasn't like one of KU's administrators just called up his cell phone one day and said, "Hey, you feel like doing this?" No, you know. So there's a connection there.
So Snoop's got an Adidas deal. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure.
Sense.
So, yeah, that helps, right? And it's kind of like Drake, like you talked about. I mean, so I don't know, man. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be entertaining. You know, he's going to play songs that people recognize, I would imagine. You know, especially because he's not stupid. He's a grandfather. You know, he knows that there's a disconnect between the college generation and what he did in his heyday. So it's not like he's gonna play some obscure things from the Dogfather. You know, I mean, he's gonna do what made him famous.
You
I would
think
imagine.
Murder was the case?
I hope so. I was listening to that today. I'm gonna be honest.
God, you're so hype.
I know I am. I was listening to Doggy Style in the car, and it was good. It was really good. I mean, like, you forget. That's the thing. Like, I know I've overblown this, but like, it really was. Like, this is music we grew up with. Like, and
it was one of the first CDs that ever appeared in my house.
Doggy Style? Yeah. I mean, and you know, like you know all those interludes. You remember every word to all of those things. I mean, I found that out today when I was just like, wow, this is cool. I mean, it took you back. So
yeah, Shane has fallen asleep.
I forgot how much older you guys are than me. I'll be honest.
How much older and how much cooler. You forgot that word. Yeah. But anyway, I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's gonna be cool. I mean, obviously having Snoop there is cool, but I think it's gonna be cool to see what kind of reaction he does get. I mean, you know, because like, look, Tom Keegan, myself, Lil Yachty spoke to us, right? Like we went into that thing going, we've got gray hair. This isn't going to be interesting.
Right.
And he killed it, and we were both really impressed, as was Coach Self and, you know, other people from those generations. So it's certainly, I would even say likely that you can go the other direction too, and some old dude can come in here and really interact and impress the fans of a younger generation, and you know, and maybe some of these young kids out there now will hit up Spotify and start listening to Doggy Style in their cars. I mean, why not?
Easy to do.
Yeah, it really is easy to do. It really is easy to do.
He's only 47. I just looked it up.
47?
Yeah.
I'm 41.
You're a grandfather to some.
To some.
To Shane here.
I'm a grandfather to all. I've been grandfathered in, that's for sure. But yeah, no, I mean, I do think that connection can exist. So it'll be fun to see, if nothing else, how that goes. But there's no doubt these guys are excited. I mean, the players are going to be fired up. They've all heard of Snoop, man. Yeah. They all have. I mean, you said it. He's an icon. So whether you know all the songs, Shane's heard of him. I mean, Shane doesn't know anything.
This is true.
So speaking of knowing things, we do now know a bit of breaking news, at least at the time we recorded this podcast. Khalil Herbert, it's gone. It's over. It's officially done.
It's officially official, even though I feel like we all felt this was official basically on Saturday when he didn't.
Yes.
Miles made it official as of Wednesday afternoon, just released a statement saying, hey, we wish him and his family well. He's no longer a part of the team.
No more details. That's the one thing, like normally that would end a story, right? Okay, right. Well, now we know. Moving on. But there's still a lot of unknowns here. I mean, is he redshirting? Was this the plan all along? Where's he going to go?
Could not have been was it Khalil's plan all along?
Right.
Okay. Well,
shouldn't have been.
No.
Shouldn't
if it was, it shouldn't have been.
Yeah. Right. I mean, that's the thing. Like if he went into the season thinking I'm going to play 4 games and then see what happens, I'm not going to say couldn't have been though. I mean, like he could have easily said that to himself or his family or whomever is.
Yeah. Let's see how these first few weeks go.
If we're 3-1 or 4-0, I'm going to keep riding.
Yeah.
If we're not, then I might hit the brakes and go.
I don't even know. I can't imagine that it's about wins and losses. I mean, to me, it's probably about his role.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. But don't you think if they were 4-0, it would be easier for him to? I mean, you're 2 wins away from a bowl game. Then you'd be like, well, hey, I guess maybe. They could be. They wouldn't be 4-0 since they've played 5 games. But you know what I'm saying?
No,
like he's only played 4.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, it's the whole thing's. Interesting at the very least. It's unfortunate too. I mean, for all parties. It's unfortunate for the fans. It's unfortunate for the coaches. It's an unfortunate thing for Khalil Herbert, I think. I mean, this is a dude who, by and large, has been a great ambassador at KU football, right? I mean, throughout his time here, he's been one of those guys that kept his head held high with pride and performed and kept competing. And I mean, you know, those are wired differently. It's hard to be that guy in a program like this with the state they're in right now. And he's been that guy, and now there are a lot of fans that are really upset with him. There are people saying, good riddance. We don't love you. I mean, that he may not care about that, but just on a human level, that's unfortunate that his career that was otherwise pretty positive and pretty cool has to end this way.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of it for him is just like, this is kind of like Groundhog Day for him, you know, where it's like
you see that Snoop's still on your mind.
It's
Groundhog.
I said Groundhog.
Yeah, you did. He's still on your mind.
I feel a remake coming.
Yep, it's gonna be good.
Groundhog Day.
I love it. I'll talk to him on Friday.
All right, perfect. You pitch him the idea.
Okay, but I'll give you credit though.
Okay,
I
want like 10% of the money that comes from this amazing film that we just.
I'll say, hey, you see my tall friend over there? Mm-hmm. He came up with this.
Yeah.
And he'll just throw up the West Side symbol to you.
That'll be all I need.
That's all you need, right? Exactly. 10% is worth that right there. Anyway, Groundhog Day.
But I mean, like, Khalil Herbert has had these, like, ever dating back to his sophomore year, he would have, like, this amazing game. You're like, wow. I mean, if they feature this guy, this could be something special for this offense. And then the next week, he's barely involved, you know? And it hasn't been that extreme, or it wasn't that extreme this year. But he did come off a 180-some yard game at Boston College on just 11 carries. And then the next week against West Virginia, he gets 6 touches. So I think that has to be kind of his thinking on this. Like, well, this is going to be a long year for this football team. I'm not going to be heavily involved in the offense because the offense isn't as good as we thought it would be or hoped it would be. So, I mean, if you don't have the ball, how are you going to feature 2 running backs? Cook is obviously the guy for your offense, and Herbert is a complementary piece. So, if he has NFL aspirations, which he obviously does, why not go somewhere else, be the featured guy for an entire year, and kind of prove yourself as a rusher before you go to the NFL a year later.
Yeah, the sense is there. I mean, you can even less.
I understand what he's doing.
Yeah, even Les Miles said it makes sense to me. I think it's the manner in which it went
down. The timing of it, The
timing, how his team found out.
Sure.
What's happened in the week since then. Like, we still don't know anything. Like, what's wrong with they do this all the time with KU basketball guys that are transferring or leaving early or whatever. They just a nice statement about how I appreciated my time at KU. I appreciate my coaches. I mean, sometimes those ring hollow. I realize that, but like, it's still the right way to do it. And so I think that's probably what's as disappointing as anything is just that what he's doing isn't evil. It's not, oh my God, what a selfish kid or anything like that. But it's the way he went about it that's difficult. And I wrote a column about it earlier in the week. I wasn't trying to call him out. I don't like doing that. And I did ask around the program before I wrote it to find out, hey, is there more to this? I mean, does he have a parent that's sick or something like that? And nobody said anything like that. So it made me feel like this is exactly what's going on.
Because
he just bailed.
Right. If that was the issue, I mean, there would be, even if KU didn't want to give specifics, there would have been a way on Saturday after that game for Les Miles to say, well, he's got a little bit of a family situation. And I mean, and when he didn't say that, that's when you knew.
Yeah.
Okay, this is done.
Right. Yeah, good point.
I guess if it really comes down to his usage, though, I mean, after looking back at it, I mean, after 4 games, how is his usage any different than what he expected going in? I mean, he's averaging about 11 carries per game through 4 games. I mean, that seems to be about the norm of what you would expect for
He's
Khalil
also
Herbert.
producing, man. I mean, he's averaging 9 yards a carry, and he's 4th in the Big 12 in rushing. Like, that'll get you noticed.
Exactly.
That's what's frustrating to me. It's like, so what are you going to do? Transfer to Indiana and be their starting running back, but still be on a crappy team? I mean, I don't know. Obviously, he's not going to Indiana, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're the 4th leading rusher in the Big 12, people will pay attention to that, regardless of how many carries you get. And he's put enough on film over the last 3 years to show this is what he does. It's not like he's going to become a new back or a different player in the next year.
Right.
I mean, he can improve still, and he can work on his game and all that. Everybody does, but
He could be featured a lot more somewhere else, though.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's the appeal of it for him.
Yeah, that does. I mean, that does make a little bit of sense.
But yeah, like Shane, you mentioned, about 11 rushes a game?
Yeah.
I think going into this season, I think that he thought this offense would be good enough where he would absolutely, like, no question, it'll come easily. I'm getting those 11 or 12 carries a game. I think he found out this offense isn't as good as we thought it was going to be. I'm going to have a lot of these 6-carry, 5-carry games, and that's not going to be for me. Now, the timing of it is horrible. Obviously, fans are going to be extremely frustrated with this type of situation. I just understand kind of the big picture approach that he seems to be taking.
Yeah, and I mean, really, truly, to speak to your point there about the offense, I mean, don't you think that they thought, they being the running backs on this team, Dom Williams included, thought that there would be 40, 45 carries a game to go around, and that when you look at it that way, look, if there's 45 running plays a game and you have 3 good backs, you can easily make a path that says each guy gets 15 carries a game and everybody's fresh and all that. So I don't blame him. I mean, that's what Les Miles' past has been.
Right.
Granted, at LSU, not at Kansas, so that's a different thing. And the idea of wanting to use all 3 of those guys was very real going into this season. It wasn't like, oh, we're just Puka. No, they wanted to use them all. But obviously this season, it's not a dumpster fire by any means. They've had some good moments, but it hasn't gone exactly how they hoped. They didn't want to lose to Coastal Carolina, like that. So I think you throw all that into the same bag, and it's kind of like it just leads to a lot of frustration and confusion, and that's probably. I don't know if this was a fluid thing. I don't know. You don't know that. I mean, no one knows that, right? I mean,
no, because obviously no one has spoken to Khalil since this decision. So,
right. I mean, the week before the West Virginia game, I mean, a day before, he's on Twitter saying, "Pack the booth." Well, he was in.
Yeah,
like he was still a part of this team and all about it. And
so that seems to me just like, I mean, completely uninformed on his thinking. That seems like that West Virginia game was like the breaking point.
not enough touches. And hey, look, if I don't play next week, I can still do something. Yeah,
maybe that idea didn't come out of his brain. Maybe someone's in his ear saying, "Hey, let's think about this."
Yeah, right.
Who
Very
knows?
possible.
Who knows?
Very, 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 very possible.
Especially when you consider, a couple months ago, Big 12 Media Days, he's saying, hey, we're going to have the best running back tandem in the country. So, right. I mean, he had to be more optimistic about this team and his chances, I guess, and his potential usage going in. And then, it had to be West Virginia and that breaking point. And then also the Houston quarterback announcing this similar thing 2 or 3 days before that. So maybe the combination of all of that kind of put that thought into his head.
Yeah, what do you guys think of the rule? I mean, in general, I know this is the second year of it.
Yeah.
I went back and looked when it was put into effect. I read some stuff, and it seemed like everybody was in support of it. Players, coaches, obviously the NCAA. I mean, everybody was for it. And the reason was, I think the idea behind the rule was this gives those freshmen, right, an opportunity to play 4 games in their freshman year and not have that burn an entire season.
Or you can do that with a sophomore too.
It could be anybody, right?
Obviously, but I mean, you could take that approach of like, well, this is going to be your redshirt year, but let's actually get you some reps,
right?
That can
be valuable,
be part of your growth as a player.
So I think if in the spirit of the rule, it's a great rule.
Oh, it's so much better than like, I played one snap.
Special teams.
That's the season.
Right. I agree. But it's definitely showing there's another side to it here, because you do have, I mean, Shane, you mentioned the Houston quarterback. Like the speculation is that he's going to transfer to OU and win the Heisman, right? so they'll have 4 Heisman Trophy winners in a row. I mean, he's a talented dude. But what frustrates me about the rule is it does, like in this situation, it leaves people hanging. When it's used wrong and improperly, Houston doesn't have their quarterback. How do you, I mean, granted, next man up, all that stuff, but how do you move forward and just be like, okay, here we go? Like, that is a huge blow. KU doesn't have its leading rusher, 4th in the Big 12. I mean, they still have Puka, but Puka can't do it all. We've seen that act. It doesn't work. I mean, teams are, especially because teams are keying on him now, and so this hurts Puka as much as it hurts the offense, as much as it hurts KU's team as a whole. But I think that's what's frustrating here. There's no there's a lot of gray area. There's no this is the only way you can use the rule, or this is the only way you can use the rule. There's, oh my gosh, you can be a starting quarterback at a Power 5 team and you can still do this, or you can be 4th leading rusher in the Big 12 and you can still do this. So it's hard to get behind the rule. It's hard to think, hey, this is a great rule, even though I think when it was dreamt up and when it first came about, I think the intention was great with it, and if used properly, it would have been awesome.
Yeah, from my viewpoint, this is probably my complaint with the rule, is just this actual aspect of it. My idea, the way it works is not only with the freshmen, but looking at Evan Fair's last year, he plays 3 or 4 games and then he sits out the rest of the year because he's dealing with minor injuries, and he's like, hey, I want to come back better than ever next year, and he comes back with the same exact team. So I think if you can figure out a way where you don't have guys just leaving and going to another team the following year, maybe that's a better way to interpret the rule. But this would be my biggest complaint, is that the rule allows him to do that, or not even just Herbert, anybody.
Right, definitely.
And it's also it got more complicated when they introduced the concept of the transfer portal, and you don't have to go through coaches anymore to transfer, right? Because,
for sure.
I mean, those two things kind of came about at the same time, and that makes things much easier for a player to just say, all right, this isn't for me. I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah, good point. Les Miles talked earlier in the week about, in no real detailed fashion, but he made it very clear that he put in his time on this, talking with Khalil. I don't want to say begging him to stay or anything crazy like that, but certainly having conversations with him, ongoing conversations, right? I mean, that's cool. I think that was good to hear. I mean, I'm glad he let that out at least. There have been very few details come out, but I think it was important for Les to tell the fans
that he tried.
That hey, look, I didn't just let him go or just, decide, hey, okay, whatever, kid. Like, I talked to him at length a lot about this situation. And
yeah, I mean, Les Miles 2 weeks ago had talked about he could see Khalil Herbert playing in the NFL.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he thinks very highly of him as a player.
Right. And so there's where your disappointment for the coaching staff comes, right? This is a first-year coaching staff that's trying to get this thing going in the right direction again. And now in week 5, not only is this a distraction, but you lose your leading rusher. I mean, it's just it's tough, man. It really is tough. And best to Khalil Herbert if he can go on and find what he's looking for at another school and give himself a chance to make it in the NFL. The thing is, though, he had a chance, I think. I mean, I don't think he has to go be featured. I don't think he's a draft pick either way. Whether he stayed at Kansas for his senior year or he goes somewhere else and is featured, I don't think he's a draft pick. So I think, at that point, you're counting on an opportunity to join a pro team through a camp invite. He was going to get that. So I don't know. I mean, again, you're right. I mean, people are clearly, or most likely anyway, advising him, and it could be his family, it could be close friends. I mean, whoever it is, that's his prerogative, and he should definitely listen to them over me or you, but it just, when you're trying to search for rhyme or reason to this, all those things come in and they're a big part of it, man. They definitely are. It's a wild situation. I mean, I don't think I've seen much like this at all, but
yeah, so strange. I mean, and then suddenly Velton Gardner is your number 2 running back out of nowhere. I mean, it was just a weird day.
Yeah. What is just real quick before we move on to OU? What is the Dom Williams situation? I mean, this could be happening here too.
Yeah. And I mean, Les Miles was asked about Dom Williams specifically, and he's basically like, "Oh, that's Dom's situation," which I don't know. I mean, to me, why not be upfront about it? I personally think that Dom Williams is probably going to take a red shirt. He's only played in 3 games so far, so there's
largely coach's decision too, right? I mean, like Khalil skipped. The TCU game. I mean, that was his choice.
Yeah, Khalil talked to Les Miles Friday night before that Saturday morning game. I was like, you know what, this is what I want to do.
Right.
Dom Williams is still with the team. He's still practicing. He's not going anywhere. But it looks to me like he's probably going to redshirt. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, I want to ask you too before we move on. You've asked a lot of these players their reaction to this. I've seen some. All the way back to Saturday when you talked to some of them. I mean, what do you think? I know you haven't talked to all 100 guys on this roster, but, I mean, I've seen support for him. I think guys are saying, hey, we wish him the best. That's one of our brothers. I mean, I think they're saying the right thing, but based on what little I've seen, it seems like they're disappointed too. Would you agree with that? I mean, what has been your read on how the players have reacted to this situation?
I mean, it was hard for a player not to be disappointed about it on Saturday, I think.
Sure.
Just because a lot of guys found out literally before the game that this was going on. We talking with Hakeem on Monday found out that Khalil did talk to some of the guys he was closer with Friday night, including Hakeem.
Okay.
And I mean the whole situation, I think just the timing of it probably left a bad taste in some guys' mouth, but ultimately, Khalil Herbert was not like a cancer on the team. He wasn't a guy that, kind of brushed people the wrong way or anything like that. He was well liked, and I think a lot of, at least the guys that I've talked to so far, have remained pretty much supportive of him and just disappointed by the situation, but still want to support him however they can.
Yeah, and they don't want to lose him. I mean, that's it. If there's any disappointment, the bare minimum, it's going to be, damn, we just lost our leading rusher. And we're trying to win games. That doesn't help. So if nothing else, they're disappointed for that, and that's obviously to be expected.
Yeah, and to me, I know he's technically the leading rusher, but he's not. He's not the primary running back.
Good point. Right. That's true. That helps. You're right. I keep saying that, hammering it home, and you're just not having it. You refuse to allow that. Well, moving on. KU welcomes Oklahoma to town this weekend, 11 a.m. Saturday at Memorial Stadium. Is it a good week to have late night? Is it a good week to be talking about Snoop and to be talking about Khalil Herbert?
Probably so.
And not actually focusing on what's coming?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough week because not only is KU football coming off of a massive loss to a TCU game that, TCU's not Oklahoma. This year, TCU's team is nowhere close to that. I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, TCU was a top 10 team, and Gary Patterson has had those type of teams before, but this TCU team is not that type of juggernaut. But a juggernaut is on its way to Lawrence this week.
Sure.
That Oklahoma offense is insane.
Yeah.
The numbers they're putting up are ridiculous. They're averaging 10-point-something yards per play. A first down every time they snap the ball on average.
Yeah, that's you can't help but get excited about it too. I mean, I watch it, and the Jalen Hurts thing is cool. Mm-hmm. He was ousted in Alabama and lands at Oklahoma, is currently the Heisman front runner. putting up ridiculous numbers.
He's a great rusher.
Right.
On top of the things he's doing in the passing game for them.
Yeah, I saw a graphic that showed where Baker Mayfield and where Kyler Murray were through this point in their Heisman seasons, and Hurts's numbers were far better than both. That's remarkable. And I don't know what Lincoln Riley did in a past life or this life to get this kind of opportunity to be coaching that. Now, he's a hell of a coach. I mean, the guy's offensive mind is so cool, and it always makes me just not only laugh but sort of like marvel at the fact that once upon a time when he was at East Carolina, there was talk about David Beatty trying to hire him to be his offensive coordinator here. Wow. And I don't know where it came from. I mean, I don't know if it was very serious or not. Obviously, Garrett Riley was here, his brother. And so, I wouldn't surprise me if he kicked the tires on it. And then the next thing you know, he's going to OU and he's the coach in waiting. And I mean, wow, what a good decision, first of all. But what he did to line himself up to be just this guy, the overseer of such an absolute, and look, they're not ranked number one. They're not the best team in college football. They might be, but the offensive prowess that this team has, the pieces, what he runs, the personnel, holy cow. I mean, he's probably earned it, but man, is he charmed. That is just an unbelievable opportunity, because when you can put that kind of mind with that kind of roster, forget about it. And there's no reason that thing's going to fall apart anytime soon. I mean, that is going to just keep rolling down the tracks. And OU's offense in the Big 12 is just going to, I mean, for years to come, going to continue to be just, oh, my God.
I know. How many Big 12 coaches are just like literally going to bed at night praying that the NFL hires Lincoln Riley away?
Right, yeah.
Like, because, I mean, he's obviously an attractive hire
Dear
at the
Cliff
next level.
Kingsbury, please hire him. You can be co-coaches in Arizona, please.
But I mean, don't you think that'll be the case? That's when this OU run of offensive prowess drops off.
Sure,
is when he goes to take a head coaching job in the NFL.
Yeah, that'll be the only case, I would imagine. Right? I mean, because the guy is amazing. He really is. He's young. He's smart. He knows how to recruit. He looks like Nick Schwerdt. All these things. It's incredible. Shane, what are your thoughts on OU's offense?
It might be good. Just in case you didn't know.
He's still young. Don't give the guy a chance.
Yeah, going back to what kind of Benton was talking about, Oklahoma's averaging 668 yards per game, which is 100 yards more than anybody else in college football. It's incredible. And, going back to what you guys were talking about with Jalen Hurts and utilizing his strength, I mean, he's a better runner as a quarterback than, what they've had in the past 2 years with those Heisman winning quarterbacks. And now Oklahoma is just running the ball almost 300 yards per game, and it doesn't bode well for KU, which that's its one weakness on the defensive side of the ball is they've given up a lot of yards. I think they rank last in the Big 12 in rushing yards allowed per game. So as much as we made about how the defense has been surprising because they've had to replace a ton, that's been a weakness for them, especially without Drew Prox, and it doesn't bode well for this matchup. And the 35-point spread by Vegas would suggest that.
Is he going to play, Prox? Do we know yet?
We don't know yet. Boy, does KU need him. I mean, not that it's going to make a difference in the outcome of this game.
It'll make a difference in the day-to-day snaps, right? I mean,
for sure.
Yeah, without him, you have a glaring hole out there, and that's no knock on the other linebackers. Mm-hmm. I thought watching Gavin Potter play last week was fun. I mean, the kid is not afraid, man. He's still got a lot to learn and a lot of room to improve. But
yeah, and what did Les Miles say that he kind of got drug a few yards on some of his tackles that he came through with? So I mean, that's just what happens when you play a true freshman at linebacker. He's
in the right spots. You can see that. I mean, for the most part, his instincts are good and his discipline's good. It's just he's a freshman. He's got to bulk up and grow, and he will, and they all do. And good for him for sticking his nose in there, and we'll see what it looks like this week. I mean, when the Hurts train is coming to put the hurting on you, do you stick your nose in then, or do you Olay it? I don't know, man. I know what I would do. There's no question about it.
Well, you're not a state champion wrestler from Oklahoma.
That is accurate, very accurate. 35, too high the line, or is it right? I mean, if this were in Norman, wouldn't it be 45?
Wow. That's a big number.
It's a big number. I really
maybe so. I don't know.
I mean, here's why I say it. I'm not just dogging KU for the sake of it. I just think that effort that they put on the field at TCU was pretty uninspiring.
Right.
I don't think it's one thing to get beat, but they just didn't look. And maybe the Herbert thing was part of it. I mean, maybe
it's possible.
So now that makes a little more sense. If that was a factor, then okay, because it just didn't look like they were into it. Didn't look like they were there. Didn't look like they looked shell shocked. And that was a surprise because I didn't think we'd see that from this team, regardless of how overmatched they were, what the final score is, or anything like that. I thought they'd show up and be ready to compete, and they just didn't look it there. So when you combine OU and all that it is with KU's last effort, that's why I think.
Right.
I mean, I don't think it's, I'm not saying crappy KU again. No, that's not what it's about. It's about
the defense looked bad against TCU.
Yeah, and just off.
Yeah.
And so that's where the Herbert thing. Can you really put that out there? I mean, is that? I know he's a part of your team, but that's the defense.
Right, exactly. Obviously it's those guys all populate the same locker room and everything, but that's a completely different side of the ball.
Right.
And it doesn't, if you're Hassan Defense or Mike Lee, even if you like Khalil Herbert, it doesn't really impact what you're asked to do on the field.
Big time. Yeah, good point. It's going to be interesting. I mean, real quick before we move on, what does KU have to do to even have a chance? I mean, I heard people talking to Bryce Tornaden on Monday about this, and what would a win mean? And to Bryce's credit, man, he went,
yeah,
he could almost his immediate reaction was almost like I can't even think about that, And of course, then he went on to gather himself and said, well, it would mean everything, I did see a graphic too that said something like. In the last 10 years or something, there's been 9 or maybe 15. It was a pretty big number. Unranked teams upset a top 10 team in the first week of October, and that's where we are. So I saw it on Twitter, but I looked through it. It has to be true. I looked through it, and the same tweet kind of put the other top 10 versus unranked teams this week matchups. I don't remember any of them, but I didn't think KU's was like the most likely upset by any means. So what do they have to do to even hang around for a half? There's the Bryce Tornaden answer. Wow, that was really good. I thought we hit record or something.
No, for the offense has to have some freaking first downs.
Okay.
That didn't happen against TCU.
Right.
That really didn't happen a lot of the first half against West Virginia.
Right.
You have to have sustainable drives because you have to keep that offense off the field.
Yeah, there you go.
That Oklahoma offense is going to do whatever it wants to. You know, it's a well-oiled machine, and they're going to put up points. So what can you do to stop it? Make sure that they don't spend a lot of time on the field.
And you got to put up some points yourself.
Yeah,
right.
Obviously.
And that was last year. I mean, Puka versus Kyler Murray was one of the coolest things of last season. I mean, in the Big 12, I really do think that. I mean, this was an all-American type running back, freshman, big-time player against a Heisman Trophy winner, big-time player. And they were going right at it. And it was awesome to watch. I thought that was so cool. So, I don't know. Shane, any other thoughts? I mean, obviously, first downs and keep them off the field is a very good place to start. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, not to agree with Benton like I always do, but I would tend to agree with that assessment there. I'm actually writing about what KU has done on first downs so far, and last week most notably was really bad. They averaged 1.21 yards per play on first down. That puts you behind the sticks on second and third down, and that led to them going 1 for 11 on third down.
Yeah.
So if you can get into more favorable down situations, then yes, you're running more than 55 plays against Oklahoma, and the score might be a little bit closer just because you have the ball more. So to not have what it has been the last 3 losses for KU where they just don't have the ball on offense, that's what they need to do to keep this game remotely close.
Yeah, this would be a good week to see some more of that creativity too, right? I mean, because that 1.21 yards per play on first down, I mean, guess why? Because everyone knows they're going to give it to Puka, and it's almost always a 4-yard loss. Like, let's find something else there. And they did it at Boston College. I mean, that was not a complete overhaul, but it was certainly a philosophical shift. And so do it again. I mean, you got nothing to lose. This one comes back to what I always talked about with David Beatty, where he played it straight. He played, I'm going to punt here and go for it here and kick here and field goal here because I'm playing on an even playing field with my opponent. That was never the case, and it's not the case this week. So I hope to see the Lesses be more creative with this offense and throw it around, see what happens, trick play it. I mean, they want to do it. They can do it. So let's see if that can help you stay in the game. Maybe it can. I mean, even if it's for a half, that's something. Speaking of something,
Wow.
let's talk about late night real quick, and then we'll finish this off with a few reader questions. There were quite a few because of that 51-14 loss to TCU. Everybody seems to want to ask questions more when things are spiraling downward rather than when things are looking good. And you know, we've had great questions all year, so
for sure.
keep them coming. We'll get to a few of them here before we get out of here. But late night, anything jump out at you guys? Obviously, it's not the first official practice, but it's the first time we'll get to see this team sort of in that Allen Fieldhouse atmosphere and together and get a look at some of these newcomers for an extended period of time. What are you looking most forward to?
Oh, I guess I'll go first.
Go first.
I was just kind of reading your article just a little bit ago, just a
Thanks,
nice little
Shane.
brag there about
Thanks,
your
man.
stuff because I won't be at late night, so I need to know what to look forward to from afar. And I saw that you mentioned in the speed part of your blog was Udoka being in a better shape this time around and his ability to run up and down the floor. I think that will be interesting, and it'll be something I want to monitor going into this year. Is just, you know, how will KU utilize him in transition, because especially in Allen Fieldhouse, it feels like that's been the best way for KU to get things going and kind of blow teams out on their home floor is by getting out in transition. And if you have a guy like Udoka getting out in transition as effective as he is near the rim, it could be a quite efficient way for KU to kind of pull away in those type of games.
I think for me, most years I'm kind of looking forward to seeing some freshmen or a number of freshmen, you know,
right?
Because this is your first kind of real good look at them up close, and it's almost basketball season, so they've been around campus for a while and have been in the program, and because I mean we see them play in the summer, those camp scrimmages, but I mean sometimes those are just like so far removed from like what real basketball
Well, they're
is.
so early too. I mean, they're
yeah.
first week of June or second week of June, and you know, I agree. So
I'm actually looking forward to seeing it's Isaiah Moss. Is
right.
that? Yeah. I have not really watched him a lot. Not a big Iowa basketball guy. Haven't seen a lot of those games the past few years.
Carver Hawkeye Arena.
Yeah, it's a cool arena.
It is a cool arena.
So I'm interested to see what he looks like and what kind of get a feel for what he might be asked to do this year. I mean, I think he's kind of been touted as a potential 3-point shooter and defensive guy on the wing.
There you go.
But yeah, I'd like to see him in person and kind of get a better feel for what he might bring.
Yeah, I love that.
That's also
answer.
in Tate's blog.
There you
by
go,
the way.
man. There
So,
you go. You
there
got it. You got it all.
Pumping it out.
You got it all. Hey, I like the Udoka answer. I obviously like both of those answers. I agree completely. But the Udoka answer is cool. Benton, you talked to Udoka last week about his conditioning and just his body, right? I mean, first of all, you see these photos. You see him in person. If Udoka just spends most of late night lifting up his shirt to show the crowd, I won't be surprised. I really won't. I mean, he is so slim right now, and I don't think it's affected his girth or
Power.
his power, any of that. No. I think he is just. I mean, Self said it the other day. He is just in the best shape of his life. He's more explosive and he's more confident as a result, and that is scary for opponents. So what did he talk most about with, other than his just actual like measurements and stuff? What was he talking about with his new body?
Oh, I mean, I think it was a lot of the conversation was just about how he got to this point. Because I mean, like obviously once he was out and couldn't do anything basketball wise for months. I mean, we saw him in early June at the Brett Ballard's camp in Topeka.
Right.
And I mean, you could tell just by looking at him, he'd just been cleared, I think, that week to do like actual basketball activity. And you could tell he was way out of shape, heavier than he'd ever been. Like it was
not happy.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could tell like at that moment, obviously he's got plenty of time to kind of get back on track, but you wondered like, what's he going to look like? He looks great.
Yeah.
Fast forward 4 months and he's like in amazing shape. He says that he has lost 40 pounds. I don't know if
Self said that too.
Self said it too? Okay.
Yeah. Since the beginning of the summer.
That would make sense to me because, I mean, he literally looked, overweight for a D1 basketball player when we saw him. And, I mean, now, like you said, he's trimmed up, and the idea that he's more explosive now, yikes.
Yeah,
Good luck guarding that guy inside.
For sure. I mean, the guards have to just be salivating because it's been easy to throw it up to him anyway.
Right.
But now if he can go up and get it higher, look out. Yeah, I think that's exciting for sure. I think, the other part of late night that's cool is, well, first of all, I mean, Silvio, man, that's that's the one I want to see. That was first on my list, Shane. I know you knew that.
That's why I didn't take it.
But you're such a team player, man. But there's been a lot of talk about, how motivated Silvio is going to be, right? And I think we'll see that starting with late night. I don't think he's going to go out there like a crazy man and just try to dunk everything and go crazy. I think he's smart enough and he's a team player enough to where he'll just still go out there and try to do what he can do where he fits in and do it to the best of his ability. But I think seeing him back in a playing situation, listening to the crowd give him love, watching him soak that up, watching him smile, I think that's going to be really cool. And then, of course, seeing him play. We have seen a few practices and things like that. And in those scrimmages this summer, he looked great, at least in the one he was at. But, yeah, this will be sort of – I'll always remember that Devontae Graham late night when he was a senior, and it was like the official passing of the torch. Because Frank Mason was gone. This is Devontae's team. It was like the Devontae Graham show, like a talk show in Hollywood where he comes out from behind the big curtain and everybody's just roaring for him, like Arsenio Hall back in the day, the dog pound. See, we're just tying this all together. Old stuff and dogs.
Shane just mouthed to me, who is
Arsenio Hall? Yeah, no, fair enough. But that one was so cool to me because that was the night where the torch passed, and this was Devontae Graham's show. And he soaked it up. And I think Silvio will too. I don't think it'll be his show or his team or anything like that, but it's his time for sure. And I think we'll see some of that on Friday night. And that's cool, man. The guy is such a good dude, such a good young man, and been through so much that I don't care. And I know I'll talk about this before the first exhibition game on October 24th. I know I'll talk about this before the Duke game, November 5th. I know I'll talk about this on Christmas Eve around the dinner table with my family. Like, you just can't say enough good things about good things happening to Silvio. And hopefully I don't write it 100 times because it's hard not to, because it's such an easy story and it grabs you. But yeah, I think it'll be fun to watch that because we'll see if he has any Snoop Dogg game. I don't know if that reached Angola, but we'll see for sure. So before we get out of here, we got about 12 minutes left. Let's head over to those reader questions. I'm assuming they're all football, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did ask specifically for football questions.
Yeah, well,
so I'm sure they would have had basketball, but I was really limiting their options.
We'll see. We can open it up coming up. Maybe there's a bye week coming up. We'll open that up.
That's true.
I know you know the bye week.
Oh, I love the bye week.
All right, first question, and then we'll get out of here.
So there were multiple questions that either used the letters OC or even got more specific about somebody with the last name Kinning. So I'm going to let's hit one of those questions that was probably kinder than the others.
Ooh, one of those, huh?
Yeah.
Nice. Welcome, show.
Yeah. This question is from Alex Burton. How much of the offensive play calling falls on Miles versus Kinning? It's been all over the place all year, but yesterday was the worst it's been, not only in terms of production, but predictability. TCU knew where almost every play was going and shut it down before the snap. Yeah, this game at TCU was, it was ridiculous. I think I just figured after how much the offense struggled in the first half against West Virginia, coming off that Boston College game, that the offense would adjust again and be like, okay, we really do need to kind of stick with these 4 receiver sets or, 3 receivers and a tight end, or a tight end doesn't even have to be tight to the line. We can send a tight end out in the slot. Let's spread out this field so that we can get the ball to Parchment and get the ball to Puka Williams. They didn't do it enough.
Yeah.
And it's just head scratching. I don't know what to make of it. And we don't get to talk to assistants or coordinators during the season, so we haven't got to ask Les Kinning about kind of his approach. And so ultimately, I think this seems more like a Les Miles wanting to hang on to the type of offenses that he's run in the past. And, maybe he's kind of saying to Les Kinning, hey, we can't totally abandon this I formation stuff,
right?
These type of packages, because to me, if you're watching the game, and Shane has charted this type of stuff the past few weeks, like, when they run plays that are not I formation, that don't have a fullback, they're just more successful.
For sure.
Yeah, because you don't have defenses kind of clogging up the box, and you just have more space, and that seems to be what guys like Puka Williams can thrive in.
Well, even Carter Stanley thrives in that. I mean, this last week he looked so out of sorts and so just not competent, and that I mean we know he is. So that's not on him. That is on the coaching staff. And man, I was looking at just overall offensive numbers this year. I think this falls back to honestly to Chip Lindsey. Like, that was
Absolutely.
such a blow, and I don't think anybody knew it at the time, or at least not to the extent that it was. I mean, he's now the head coach at Troy, and Troy's offense is ranked 12th in the country. That tells you a lot.
Yeah.
This would be totally different if he had stuck around. And you can't hate the guy for going and being a head coach at his alma mater. I mean, like, big deal. That he had to do that. But it put KU in a tough spot. It put Les in a tough spot, and now they're sort of just, I guess, paying for that. I mean, it's not a total knock on the guy they have in there, and I never say his name because I'm never confident in it.
Les Kenning?
Kenning. It's easy. I'm not trying to knock him entirely, but I don't think that he even had to play catch up, right? A little bit. I mean, when he got the job. So
yeah, I mean, one of the first times we talked to him, and it was on signing day in early February, and like he told us he had some anecdote about like he forgot that he had already met Thomas McVitie.
Yeah,
like he ran into him again. He's like, "Hey, I'm Coach Kenning," and McVitie was like, "Yeah, we've met."
Yeah, I forgot about that. Right. So so there you go. The whole thing was kind of thrown together on the fly, a little bit of scramble mode. And it's unfortunate because I'm not saying Chip Lindsey would have KU's offense ranked number 12 in the country, but I will tell you that it would be better. And I also think, more to the point, I think Les Miles would have given Chip Lindsey a lot more freedom to run what he wants to run, to install what he wants to install, and to take some chances and to be different than Les is used to. Maybe not a ton. Maybe not a ton. But I do think more.
I also wonder if because it's really been the first half of the last two games where they've run more I formation sets, and they've really went four wide in the second half of both West Virginia and TCU. So I also wonder if it's more to do with they think, hey, if there's ball control, if we limit the offense's possessions, maybe there's a chance, and they can't sustain any drives whatsoever, and so they have to abandon that philosophy real quick.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Next question.
I was just going to clarify something real quick.
Yeah.
I think you said that Chip Lindsey went to Troy. He's from Alabama. He's from the state.
Sorry, yeah. Not his alma mater. No, right, good call.
There was a question.
Back home, right?
Yeah.
Going back
basically.
home. Yeah, good call.
El Gigante asked, what will it take for Miles to give anyone but Stanley a chance? So I was kind of surprised that we didn't see another quarterback play. This game was over.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and I think this question is more about like, hey, can we see another quarterback in this offense and just kind of see what it looks like? I was like, why do they have Stanley out there? Like,
right.
I mean, you could
That's a better
suffer
point.
A season-ending injury. What does this offense look like the rest of the year? If you're down 40 points playing your starting quarterback and then he gets hurt, in the fourth quarter of this game, you have no chance of winning. That was puzzling to me. But yeah, if Stanley, this was one of the like worst percentage passing games of Stanley's career, as far as when he's been a starter. So I mean, like you mentioned, he was off, no question about it.
And that could legit be Khalil Herbert.
It could be.
First of all, they're close. Second of all, that is affecting his offense. So anyway, keep going. But I do think I would give him, as much as anybody, the opportunity to kind of be out of sorts after hearing that news.
Right. But I just think like if Stanley, has another week like this, I think the coaches are going to be forced to maybe not rethink it completely and be like, all right, we're done with Stanley, but maybe in games that aren't close, you start giving other guys looks.
I love that idea. Yeah, I mean, and who cares who they are? It doesn't have to be your number two. Like, why? If you want to see what Torrey Loughlin has, there's a chance.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll happen.
No, I don't either. I think it'd be fun for everybody. I do, and I agree with you. Like, I hadn't really thought of it from the Carter's your starter, and you got to protect him standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, because I get it too. He's earned it, and you don't want to dump him, and you don't want to hurt his confidence and all that. But it's real easy not to do that. You said, look, we didn't score a single point for
3 quarters.
3 quarters, right? And we're not going to come back.
Right.
And I know you're all heart, and I know you would fight like crazy.
That's why I'd be even quicker to take him out.
Because he's going to run guys
he will
over.
gladly go out there and lower his shoulder.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it would be real easy to take care of that and not worry about it hurting his confidence.
Yeah, it's hard to put obviously any loss on this loss on one person, but especially in this sense because TCU was up 21-0 by the end of the first quarter. They scored on a touchdown on their first 5 possessions. Meanwhile KU has a 3-and-out on 3 of their first 4 possessions. So there was no rhythm early on for KU, and all of a sudden you're in a game script that's really not favorable for any quarterback. So it would be tough for me to say, hey, this game means that someone else needs to play quarterback for. And I'm not sure that's what the question is implying. But yes, going back to what you were saying, in the second half, maybe you do give another guy a look just because the game is a little bit more lopsided. But in terms of just this game, the game script really wasn't favorable for Carter Stanley or any quarterback to have success.
Yeah,
really.
That's a really good point. And look, they caught TCU at a terrible time. TCU was locked in. They had just lost to SMU. I'm not saying if they had won that game that this would have been closer, but TCU was very clearly up for this game and wasn't about to mess around and let it be close. Right. That's what it looked like to me. What's next?
This question is from Justin. Justin asks, does Les have a second gear? Maybe some fire on the sideline to show fight. We need more than Dr. Pepper commercials and halftime appearances. Beatty already used the we'll learn from this tactic. I thought this was interesting. I hadn't really considered this. But, I think when you're a fan and you're sitting through a game like this against TCU and then afterwards your coach is pretty even-keeled and you're like, you know what? I thought we did have good effort throughout the game.
Yeah,
I get where he's coming from. Yeah,
right.
I was kind of surprised that Miles kind of took that route in assessing the game.
You know what though? It's so weird. I agree, and I've always thought that too, and I've felt that way. But if you look at the history of time, most coaches handle it this way. Mm-hmm. It's just the way it's done. The idea that you're going to get a coach that gets in front of the media and just MFs people and rips people and calls his team out. That happens so rarely at all levels, college, high school, professional football. It's so rare to see that. So maybe on the sideline you could see more, but that was part of his question, right?
Yeah, I think
so. So maybe that's fair. But I'll tell you what, these miles to go, the series on ESPN Plus, that's shown there's a lot more fire behind closed doors in Les Miles than we see or we get to experience. And so I don't think you should be too worried about that. I get it. I'm with you. I do get it. You'd like to see more, but I don't think it really matters, right? If he's throwing his hat down or pushing guys in the chest to try to fire them up in the shoulder pads or whatever.
I don't think you can do that anymore.
Yeah, you probably can.
This is the 1980s.
Honestly, I felt a little illegal just even saying it. I thought I was going to get arrested or something. That was weird. But you know what I'm saying? Like you could get more fire out of him, sure. But like at the same time, if the game's 38-0, fire comes from competitiveness, right? Like fire is like when you're trying to fire your guys up to go make a play to stay in a game or to win a game, and it can come at any time, but it's 38-0. Everyone knows what's happening. We're getting our butts kicked and it's over. Yeah. So finding fire in that moment is number one, probably not that easy to do. Number two, you're worried about psyche. If you destroy your players in that moment or anything like that, you do have to worry about, are they going to fold on me? Especially if you're a brand new coach to a new team. So, I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think his demeanor is good with this team and with these players. I think it's good in the locker room. I think it's good where we don't see it. I wouldn't worry too much about what you do see.
It's also tough to say anything other than what Les did after that TCU game, knowing full well what's about to happen the next 2 weeks when KU has to play Oklahoma and Texas. Those are the two best teams in the conference. Everybody believes that anyways. So when they start playing...
You don't?
I'm just saying, when everybody...
Jeez, tough guy.
It's an Iowa State guy.
Baylor over there.
Right. Go Charlie Brewer. No, but when KU starts playing more competitive games, maybe you can say something different. After if there's a loss like that after Texas Tech, then maybe you need to have a different motivating tactic with the press. But after TCU with Oklahoma and Texas lined up, I can't imagine burning that type of tactic with the media.
Yeah, I always thought, man, when Charlie Weiss was the coach, I always thought, especially when he first started, I didn't know what to expect. Their first loss, I was like, oh man, this is going to be interesting. I mean, it was interesting because he was Charlie Weiss and he was always interesting, but it was never the fire and anger that I expected to see. He walked in there and was like, well, we got our butts kicked, and we'll address it. And I mean, so I just think that's such an important thing to remember. It's like, that's the way most of these coaches are wired. That's what they've seen other coaches do, their mentors. And Benton, you said it. I mean, you can't push guys in the chest anymore. Well, you can't really lose it on them either because it'll be everywhere. It'll follow you forever. If you're a raging lunatic and there's a clip of that, it's going to get used against you in recruiting. Like you do have to be a little bit measured when the cameras are on. And so I think that's a big part of it. What do we got next? 2 more.
All right. This question is from Todd Hill. Todd asks, are we expecting our D-backs to make the tackles on the running plays and cover receivers on pass plays? Seems a little much for them. So and this is kind of reflecting on what we saw at TCU where, TCU run game was just gashing KU. And,
Mike Lee, Bryce Tornado, they're just trying.
Those are the guys end up making the tackles.
Right.
And this is kind of the byproduct of Drew Prox being out. We had seen early in the season that this is a guy who's going to be making those tackles generally, and his timing has been good. He doesn't get dragged for 5 yards, like a true freshman does. So, KU is going to be in a really tough spot without Drew Prox. However long this happens to take him to come back, it's going to be difficult for this defense to defend the run without him, I think.
Especially when like you said, Oklahoma's averaging 10 yards per play. That would imply that the secondary has to make a play there because 10 yards and you're at the secondary. So, without Drew Prox, obviously it's very tough to expect KU to make plays closer to the line of scrimmage. And even though they had their struggles with that even with Drew Prox. So it is a tough ask for the secondary and what they've had to do through 5 weeks.
Yeah, I think just talking with some of the defensive players on Tuesday night, it seemed pretty clear, without getting into the specifics, from Kyron Johnson and Hassan Defense, that the defense is going to try some different things this week against Oklahoma. Now, whether that's just because it's like, oh man, this offense is a next level thing, we've got to do something different.
All right, terrific. We'll leave it right there. We had some technical glitches that caused us to miss a few of the final questions that we read. So sorry if we didn't get to yours, and keep them coming next week. We'll do a better job with the technical glitches, hopefully. Don't know what happened, but we lost a few of them in playback, so apologies there. But thanks for all your wonderful questions. As always, should be a big weekend in Lawrence, Kansas. Snoop is here. Late night is Friday. Oklahoma coming to town on Saturday morning. We'll have all kinds of coverage from all of those things, as always, at KUsports.com. For Shane Jackson and Benton Smith, I'm Matt Tait. Thanks for checking out this episode of the KU Sports Hour, and we'll talk to you guys again real soon on another episode.